Okay, so part two of this is going to kind of get into exactly what is entailed in the Code of Ethics. The preamble kind of talks about how, one of our main goals is the prevention of disease and the improvement of the public's health. And it talks about kind of those three different parts of, making sure that we're committed to a healthy life, we're here to serve the public, things like that. When you look at the purpose of it, it talks about how it is there to guide us to make ethical decisions. It lets us know what our ethical responsibility is and lets the general public kind of know what our values are. I'm going to talk about something that came up last year, and it was a really big deal in the ADHA. Maybe I even mentioned this at the time, but when the vaccine came out and there was a lot of discussion about mandating it for healthcare workers. And one of our president that had just recently been installed, Charlie Birch, she, under her guidance, decided to make a statement that said the American Dental Hygiene Association supports requiring healthcare workers to be required to have vaccines. And it was an uproar. The reality was, there are hygienists, and maybe some of you even feel that you don't want the vaccine, or for whatever reason, you shouldn't be required to have it. I have my own personal opinions on that. I think, even to be in elementary school or whatever, all the schools were required to have vaccines. So that's kind of my personal thing. But there, people are this has been a very, what am I trying to say? Like, personal thing. I can't even think of the word. Governmental, when you're trying to choose sides, partisan, whatever thing. Unfortunately, it's kind of turned into that. And so people have very strong opinions on it. So I want you to kind of think about that thing. And I'm going to show you a couple things in here why they decided to do it. The Code of Ethics is here to help us throughout our careers. It helps us know, what we stand for, and helps us keep accountable to the Code of Ethics. Some of the key concepts are those values and those definitions that we've already talked about, which we'll talk a little bit more about. The basic beliefs are: the services we provide contribute to the health and well-being of society. It qualifies us to serve the public by preventing disease and helping individuals achieve and maintain optimal health. Individuals have intrinsic worth and are responsible for their own health and are entitled to make their own choices regarding their health. So as I was kind of going over this, one of the reasons that they said that they made that statement that we should support hygienists being required, or healthcare providers in general, to be mandated to have the vaccines. They said it was because if you read the Code of Ethics, this is what we believe. And there are parts of it that say that. But as I was kind of going back through this, I read this statement right here and I thought, that somewhat is in opposition to that, right? This statement right here talks about that autonomy of people being able to make their own choice. And so the two are in conflict. That would be an ethical dilemma in the Code of Ethics, in the sense that, we want people to be able to choose what they do for their health, but we also promote health. Let's see, is this the part that talks about that? Okay, so here's some of the basic beliefs continued. Dental hygiene is part of overall health. So we talk about that oral systemic health, and we want to work with other healthcare providers. All people should have access to care. So when we talked about justice, that's kind of bringing that in. We are individually responsible for our actions and the quality of care that we provide. So this talks about some of those definitions that we talked about. I guess it'll be a couple weeks ago when you guys get to this. But universality means that you're kind of expected to do what others would do in that situation, given the same, situation. This is what most people would do. Complementarity is the obligation to have justice or basic human rights of other people. So what this is saying, that it requires the consideration and the values and perspectives of others before making a decision that might affect them. So let me think of an example of that. What would affect somebody else? Okay, so maybe this might be an example. We're trying to pass local anesthesia. So we have to look at the other stakeholders in it. We have to look at the patients and how it's going to affect them, the dentists and things like that. That's what complementarity means. Like, before we go for something, we need to look at the big picture and look at other stakeholders that are involved. Of course, ethics, we've talked about how this is the general standards of right and wrong. And then community talks about how we affect those around us, society in general, our patients, that kind of thing. And then responsibility is talking about the guidelines for making ethical choices, and then accept the responsibility for our actions when we apply them. Let's see, there we go. Oh, no, it took me backwards. I don't know where my mouse is. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, and then here is our code of ethics. Now, one thing that we talk about, when I was talking about that example of the vaccine and requiring it of others, one of our core values is beneficence. And the definition of beneficence is a primary role in promoting the well-being of individuals and the public by engaging in health promotion, disease prevention activities. So when Charlie Birch said, we support this statement, she kind of fell back on that beneficence definition. And so once again, those two are somewhat, that would be an ethical dilemma. We have to figure out which one is the stronger one in this situation. I'm not going to go over all these because we've talked about them just recently, and I think we've, brought that up already. The last thing that we want to kind of cover, though, and that is in our code of ethics, is this obligation to, and it talks about ourselves. And when we talk about ourselves, it talks about making sure that we have a safe work environment, making sure that we can that we counsel others if there's a situation that comes up. We want to be able to rely on others to kind of help us work through some ethical dilemmas we might have, and to strive for professional growth and continued knowledge, things like that. As far as ourselves as professionals, some of the things that they discuss is practicing high standards of care, using peer-reviewed system and quality assurance measures to practice, have collaboration with other professionals to help lifelong learning. To our families and friends, it talks about maintaining healthy lifestyle and respecting the rights of friends and family. And then clients, the Code of Ethics talks about making sure that we're using the high standard of care, using high judgment and skill, that we minimize the risk for our patients, that we don't discriminate, that we keep their information confidential, that we treat everybody with respect, that we advocate for the welfare of our patients, that we refer to other patients when necessary, and that we educate our patients. To our colleagues, this is talking about managing conflict constructively, collaborating with others, encouraging professional growth amongst those that we work with, being honest, candid, and promote human relationships that are mutually beneficial, things like that. Under the employees and employers, We want to be honest, responsible, open, and candid with them. Once again, we want to manage conflict constructively, and we want to respect the employment rights of our employers and employees. And then to the dental hygiene profession, we want to continue to develop and advance our profession. Pass local anesthesia. Avoid conflicts of interest and declare them when they occur. And so sometimes we see that even on the TDHA board where, somebody works for, say, maybe they work for Sensodyne or something like that. And so, they need to declare that they have a conflict of interest when discussing whether we use Sensodyne for a sponsor or, just something to that effect. Or if you had a personal business or a stake in something, you would want to declare that as a conflict of interest. We want to increase public awareness. Remember that societal trust. Act in ways that bring credit to our profession. Contribute our time, talent, financial resources to support and promote our profession. Promote a positive image for our profession. And then to community and society, we've kind of talked about a lot of these, but use a peer review as a mechanism for identifying inappropriate, inadequate, or substandard care provided by dental hygienists. Comply with local, state, federal laws that promote public health and safety. Develop support systems and quality assurance to provide standards of care. Act consistently with the ethics of the Global Scientific Committee. Provide pro bono services, and recognize that that's something that we want to do. And then scientific ethic or scientific investigation. This is talking about, using peer-reviewed information, conduct research, use research methods that are accepted by scientific standards. So, making sure that we treat the people in the study, you guys will probably talk about this in community, fairly and give them informed consent, things like that. Doing that IRB, the Human Subject Review Committee, if you're doing research. This talks a lot about these kind of things. And then report your findings completely and honestly and in a timely manner so that you're providing to the body of knowledge that we have, and critically evaluate research methods and results before applying a new theory and technology in practice. So that kind of covers what is in the Code of Ethics. So along with reading Chapter 5, you should read through our Code of Ethics and know what is involved in that. And that's the end of this one. Thank you. Bye.